some things are so complex that they're hard to grasp and they're hard to really get our mind and our brain around. And conversely, some things are so simple. It's likewise really difficult to get our mind, our body, and our brains around. And this practice is really, I would say it's more of the latter, that it's so simple that we're apt to say, really? Really? And there was a gal named who was, I think 5 or 6 years ago, we were doing real live, you know, when the world was live, and we were doing Qigong, and she suffered from different non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she was wearing a wig and, you know, very not in great shape. And she was there for the first session, and she left and she closed the door. She said when she left, and she said, really? Like, really? Did that just happen? And what we're going to try to do is have that kind of aha moment, okay? And that kind of, really? Is it that simple? And it's simple and complex at the same time. And that's one of those combinations of opposites. And in recovering, the way we use scientific knowledge, I can't really call myself a medicinal practitioner because I don't have the doctors, okay? So I use the words scientific knowledge, medicinal knowledge, okay? Because I'm not prescribing. So what we do is we use scientific knowledge. We use what I touched on with that combination of opposites. Is it complex or is it simple? Well, those are what we would call a Tai Chi. And a Tai Chi is a combination of opposites. So the paradigm of yin and yang is a paradigm that we use in recovering the way. We don't have to be Taoist. We don't have to be Chinese. The same way that as we use Western medicine, we don't have to be Western medicine practitioners. We don't have to be doctors. What we have to have is a basic operational, functional awareness of what's going on. So the paradigm of yin and yang is about opposites. That the opposite of elevated is lowered. The opposite of inside is outside. The opposite of hot is cold. The opposite of tension is looseness. So I think it's pretty easy for a lot of us these days to say, hey, I'm scattered, I'm elevated, the world seems to be surface thin and moving incredibly fast. What do I do about it? What can I do about it? Well, the opposite of scattered is collected. The opposite of moving is still. The opposite of deficient is supplanted. So the paradigm of yin and yang, which we're going to be using more in recovering the way, is a very handy paradigm to use. And we're going to use a lot of metaphor. We're going to use a lot of examples of how we can bring that into our life. Another third aspect of recovering the way is that there are really 3 world-class healing paradigms in the world. And one of them is Western medicine. And one of them is the world of Oriental medicine, of which acupuncture, Qigong, herbal medicine is a branch. And the third most commonly fair-traded healing paradigm in the world that I can think of is the 12-step method. The 12-step method is a method that is used when the West says, we can't help you anymore with what it is that you're suffering from. We can't cure you. You need to go somewhere where we address what we would call the spirit, and Western medicine is really not well, it's not well versed, it's not well able to handle what we would call matters of the spirit. But conversely, Oriental medicine is very, very capable of addressing matters of the spirit. In the meridians, which we have yin meridians on the inside and yang meridians on the outside, these pass through our organs. And there are meridians that go through the liver, that go through the kidney, the spleen, the heart, the lung. And they have actually, according with them, what they would call spirits. And the spirits, they call spirits things like the Hun, the Yi, the Shen, the Po, the and these translate loosely to wisdom, fear, the animal instinct to survive, the will, compassion, anger, fright. They refer to those as spirits. Well, they're non-tactile, they're you can't open yourself up and find it. However, they exist inside of us, and Oriental medicine has really good tools. So in recovery, I'm just going to touch on this right now. How many of us are at the point or have been, in whether it's the lockdown or the political situation or our jobs or our ability to make a living, or just we go, I'm fed up, I can't do this. Now, I'm beat. Now, in recovery, when we hit a bottom, it's called, having a moment of clarity. And the first step in recovery says, well, we admitted we were powerless over, let's say, alcohol or life. Now, the word admitted may not really ring well for us, but how about connected, intuited, figured it out, observed, noticed, and the beginning of the healing process starts when we notice that we're not handling it. So at that point, when we notice it, either we continue to do it and we really lose ourselves, or we come to what is called the second step in recovery. And the second step in the healing paradigm of the 12-step is came to believe that powers greater, beyond, within, without ourselves could restore us to sanity, could restore us to balance. So I'm going to go back now to that, well, I'm scattered, I'm all over the place, I don't know where I am. Well, if we use the paradigm of yin and yang, okay, the opposite of up is lowered. The opposite of moving is still. So we're going to use what is called the somatic experience, okay? The soma, the body. We're going to be taking our everyday life where we're looking out and we're watching, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? And we're going to turn that inward, And how do we do that? Well, the fourth step in recovery is something called taking an inventory. We take an inventory, and people may have heard that, and that's where we catalog our resentments. We catalog the people who we've had trouble with, And that's not what we're going to do right now. There are practices where we're going to do that. But we're going to take a different type of an inventory right now. And the inventory that we're going to examine is the stock and trade. And we're going to look inside. Now, don't get afraid, because we're not going to be looking deep inside like sitting on a psychiatrist's couch and he goes, well, why do you feel that way about your mother? Okay? We're not going to be doing that. This is really, we're going to just do a fact-finding excursion. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to notice what's doing with my hands. What's doing with my hands? Can I let go of everything that I had in them? And when I say let go, let's think about, the major suspects: the cell phone, the steering wheel, the computer, the keyboard, right? And in your mind's eye, like, put down, even if you're not holding the phone, put it down. And we're going to stand up. Now, you can do this sitting, you can do this standing, you can do it lying down. The only danger doing it lying down is you might fall asleep, and that's quite all right. But so let's get up, and we're going to do, and some of you have done this before, and doing it again and again and again is like putting money in the bank. So let go and drop that phone. Just drop it. Drop the memory of it. Check in with the hands. What can we do right now, here, right now? Just notice. Notice the thumb, the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger. There's actually one part of the hand that doesn't move. And that is the very, 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 very center of the palm. Everything around it moves. And see if you can locate that very, very center of the palm. And like a flower, let the rest of the hand open up. Relax. Now just work it up the wrist a little bit and notice, can you relax the wrist? Now, just a little hint, the muscles oppose each other. So there are muscles on the yang side that turn the hand up. There are muscles on the yin side that turn the hand down. And so what we can do is just notice the top, notice underneath, notice the back of the arm, notice the front of the arm, and see what you can do to balance it off and relax a little bit each one. We're going to do a little exercise that we've done before, but I do this all the time myself. I do it when I go to bed at night. So when we go and we clip our nails, there's no sensation in the fingernails. None. It's pretty amazing because the fingers are the most sensitive part of the body. But if you ever got anything stuck under a fingernail, you know how sensitive that soft, fleshy, pulpy skin is. And what I want you to do now, in your mind's eye, is go all the way out to the pinky, all the way out to your pinky, and notice that soft, fleshy skin under the nail bed. Just take a moment, see if you can sense it in your mind's eye. And as if it was a muscle, I want you to relax it. And stay with it. And notice what happens. You may feel something right away, or you may feel something that kind of starts to flood in a little bit. Now, what we're doing is that we're actually dilating blood vessels in our hand. We are taking charge of our own autonomic nervous system. We're doing something that we think we can't do. Go to the next finger, go to the ring finger. And relax that soft, soft skin under the nail bed. And just go to all the fingers and notice where that, you'll be able to do it. It's such a sensitive part that if we just take a moment, as you're doing it, you may notice a sigh. You may notice a deep breath. We're shifting from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic portion of the autonomic nervous system. We're going to do the same thing with the feet. So it may be a little less distinct because so much of the brain is tied in with the hands, sensorily and motor. But it'll happen. Choose the pinky toe. And relax it. And the fourth, third, so the opposite of tense is relaxed. And there's a word called song in Chinese which actually means to relax, and it means to open. You know, the same way in a suspension bridge in the summer, right? The joints will expand, and in the winter time they contract. We do the same thing. So we're going to move, don't worry, but we spend so much time moving without thinking about it that we are being still and thinking about it. That's a change. Imagine you had a big long tail. You know, we still have the vestigial tail like a monkey. Imagine you had a big long tail and you could just let it flop on the ground. Let your tail thump. So we're taking an inventory here. And what is the inventory? Well, let's check in with the shoulders. Are they hiked? What can I do to relax them? I can walk around all day like I've just left the supermarket with my arms hiked up, carrying, ready to do. Can I let my shoulders go? What can I do to relax the neck? The scapula. And as we do this, we are stopping winding the clock. And we are starting to unwind the mainspring. So that's another combination of opposites. There is a winding and an unwinding, but we're just so unfamiliar with the unwinding that we think that it doesn't exist. And the way to unwind is either to fall on the couch, watch TV, get drunk, or do whatever we do to zone out. That is not stopping. That is going into what is called oblivion. This is a very conscious, very aware, very acutely aware of the world and very acutely aware of what's going on inside. So we're going to do our very, very basic movements here. And what we're going to do is make a little what is called a bird's beak. You don't follow my hand right now. I'm just going to show you. A bird's beak is where we take our fingers and we bring the thumb, okay, and the three fingers together. This is not a mystical, secret, masonry, thing where you have to do this to get into the secret society. Nothing of the kind. But what we're going to do is we're going to make this little bird's beak, okay? Because we're going to pull. This is the sign of a pull, like we're going to pull a bow. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring our hands up and pull up. And then when we get about mid-chest height, we're going to open our hands and we're going to push down. And after we pass, we're going to make that bird's beak again, and we're going to pull up. And then we're going to push down. So the cycle of up and down mate each other. The sun rises, midday, push down, coming toward evening. Plants generate carbon dioxide, and then they generate oxygen. We have a breath cycle. So yin is earth. Yin is stillness. Let's pull up a little stillness. Let's pull up a whole bunch of stillness. And then we're going to push down the excess anxiety. Let's pull up a little of something we would like to manifest. Balance, how about that? Let's pull up a little balance. And let's push down excessive. So we're just going to do this now 3 more times, and then we're going to modify it. You may notice, as you're doing this, maybe or maybe not, tune in to what your rest of your body is doing as you do this. You may be amazed that the body automatically cantilevers itself. Check in. Notice that the cerebellum, that part of our brain which regulates balance and keeps the tone of muscles moving, okay, and regulates our movement, that cerebellum is always working to keep us erect and keep us balanced. Isn't that amazing? Talk about a power greater than ourselves. That's part of ourselves. So let's be thankful for that cerebellum. And let's all say this together. Thank you, cerebellum. Just say it and see what happens. And part of us might be going, oh boy, I just can't believe you finally noticed. Oh, thank you for noticing. So I want to speak to that word noticing. We're going to turn our hands now and come up. Palms are going to be facing the ceiling as we come up now. Palms facing up. This is again very simple. And then turning over and coming down. So we all know that yin-yang symbol, which has the 2 kind of paisley fish in it, right? Where there's a spot of white in the black and a spot of black in the white. And let's continue doing this. So let's pull up a little yin. Let's pull up a little balance. Let's pull up a little harmony. And let's now push down that excess anxiety. So yin is earth. Yin is stillness. Yin is the corporal, the world that we see. Yang is the immaterial, the energetic. And this paradigm, which is thousands of years old, is just such a handy paradigm to use And we use that in recovering the way, and we fuse that with a lot of Oriental medicine. And we're actually now going to do a very simple Tai Chi move. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring our hands in front. Just cross them in front. Drop the tailbone. Relax. Relax as best you can. We're going to open our arms side to side, and we're going to scoop something down, scoop something from the earth, scoop something from yin and bring it in. And then we're going to go up to the sky, cosmos. And we're going to bathe ourselves with whatever that is. So yes, yin can be and is stillness. It is the fundamental stuff that the world, the visible world that we see, is made of. And yang is energy. Yang is intuition. Yang is light. But I will tell you, there's also what is called a false yin. And a false yin is turbidity, stubbornness, stuckness, intransigence. And we're going to dig down way through and past turbidity into the rich, deep earth. And bring that in and notice what it feels like in the body. Key. Notice what it feels like in the hands. Notice what it feels like in the arms. Notice what it feels like as the hands come close to the head, as we guide them in front of the body. So I was talking about that yin-yang symbol, and I'll tell you that there's something missing from that yin-yang symbol, something missing. And what's missing from the yin-yang symbol is the observer. That without the observer, there is no movement of yin and yang. So we are the observer. We are the measure. So the noticing is the medicine. The noticing of what is happening is both the tools of inquiry, it's the tools that we use to examine the world, but it is also, at the same time, it is the healing process. So let's now do that one more time and come down. So let the hands now come down and rest by the sides again. And if you want to move your feet a little bit, normally in our live practice, we actually do a fair amount of Tai Chi walking. It's a little harder to do the foot movements, in Zoom, but we can try that a little later. And do sit if you're finding that this is, more than you want to do at any one time. Do sit. So, restoring flow, noticing that there is a combination of opposites is key to healing, because if we think that there's only more and more and more and more, we are going to burn ourselves out. And the question is, well, how do I bring that in? And it's by noticing the body and using these paradigms, coming to believe that powers greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Part of that process, coming to believe in powers greater than ourselves, is not an intellectual operation. It is a somatic experience. Mysticism is a bodily, apprehended, phenomena that instructs the heart, which instructs the brain. It is never the other way around. We may have an illumination that comes from something that has happened to the body. So what we're doing here is we are helping the mind to quiet the body to start to have those experiences. We're going to turn to one side. So I'm calling this the gong side and the book side. Okay? So I'm going to turn to my gong side. I don't know what that is in your screen, if that's the right or the left. Okay? I think it's your right. But we're going to now have one foot sort of at 90 degrees, not a hard 90, almost like a 45 degree. And the other foot is going to be as if we're going to walk in the direction that we're facing. Okay? We're going to walk there. Have a comfortable stance. So you're not too far and you're not too close. Have it so that you can rock with the hips forward, rock with the hips back, so that when you're leaning back, you're actually putting weight on the haunches. And then when you're leaning forward, you can have weight on the hips. And it's almost like the body is a sail. So that's the bottom of the mast. That's the top of the mast. And where the wind goes, it's going to go forward, right, and back. And we're going to put our hands up front, in front of us. You know, like Marcel Marceau, the mime years ago, right? We're going to put our hands up in front as if there's some weight or something there. And using our body, we're going to push forward. So we really don't use the arms to push forward. They may go a little bit. We're going to push forward, and then when we go as far as we want to, we're going to turn the hands into a pull and pull back. And then we're going to repeat it, push out and pull back. So notice what's happening with your breath as you do this. Noticing is key. Is your breath, for example, are you exhaling as you move forward and inhaling as you move in? Most people, I think, would say yes. So as we do this now, we're going to modify it a little bit, and we're going to push out and down. And then as we pull in, we're going to pull in and up. So these movements are they're very simple, but even so, it still may seem difficult in the beginning, but you'll catch on because they're almost intuitive. So the body is doing most of the pushing. Push out and pull in. And I'm going to ask myself, is there let's even pick a minor character issue. They would call it in recovery a character defect, or something about myself I would like to see abate. Whatever it is, maybe tardiness or maybe something real big, all depends on the weight you're pushing, and we're going to push it out. And notice what it's like to say, I would like to be rid of this. And then, as we pull in, leave ourselves open to what might be a solution. How might I conduct myself otherwise? And I'll guarantee that the answer ain't going to come right now. But what we are doing is we are priming the pump. We are priming the pump. And maybe later, and maybe tomorrow, maybe a week, we may start to find ourselves thinking about how things might change, or that they indeed are changing. So there's a prayer in recovery called a third step prayer. And I'm going to use that here right now. God, I offer myself to Thee to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self so that I might better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. So we are now going to make this the last one. When we get down to the bottom, just kind of follow with me. Make a little ball as if you have something really valuable here, really valuable. And we're going to turn to the other side. And we're going to turn to the book side. And now the weight should be the back foot on the other leg. And we're going to push out. And then pull back in. So all of us have not only defects and things that we want to change about ourselves, but we have wonderful qualities, wonderful, wonderful qualities that help other people, and how we can help other people, the qualities of mercy, the qualities of kindness, the qualities of patience and tolerance. Choose one of your best characteristics that you like. There was an old sponsor of mine that said humility is one of the qualities that he was proudest of. I love that. We all have things that we can share. And let's now notice, what does it feel like to share with others some of those qualities? Pushing out to the world. And then making ourselves available to the kindness of others. And notice what that feels like. With a lot of us, and me included, there can be a lot of false pride. It's like, oh no, here, you can have this, but I'm good. I'm good. But inside I really say, you know what, I want the help, but I'm too proud to ask for it. Open up to the possibility and giving other people the joy of sharing. Sharing wellness is key to staying well. And notice, what does it feel like as we bring in and notice the kindness of others, and then sharing the abundance that we have. And as we do this now, let's do a little multitasking. Drop the tail, head rising, relaxing the fingers. And we're going to make this the last one. And we're going to, as if we're going to do it again, but we're going to pivot back to the front and hands crossing in front. Beautiful. You're doing great. Doing great. And now, imagine, not only could you relax your fingers, but you could relax 1 inch right beyond the ends of your fingers. Just notice what that feels like. You could relax 1 inch underneath your feet. 1 inch above the top of your head. We have electromagnetic fields all around us that we are part of. They are part of us. Bring the hands up in front. And what we're going to do is we're going to push away that which is crowding me in. Give me some space. How does that feel? Not in an angry way, not in a leave me alone way, but I am declaring that here, now, this is me, this is my space. I am aware that I am more than I think that I am. And then coming back, we're going to now put the hands above. You ever feel like the whole weight of the world is on us? Let's push it up. Oh, come on. That's a heavy one, right? Oh, boy. And then toss it away. Boom. Whew. And come down. That felt so good, we're going to do it again, okay? I am not a tunnel support. I am a human being. Oh. Yeah. Cool. How does that feel? And now, side to side. Scylla and Charybdis from the Odyssey. On one side is the cliff, on the other side is the chasm. And we're stuck between the rock and the hard place. Come on, who put us there? Who put us between the rock and the hard place anyway? Oh, might it be me? And if so, what can I do to extricate myself? And that's just a question. It's another one of those questions just to ask. That felt so good, we're going to do it again. Good. And now we're going to do it down below. So we're going to push down and head rising at the same time. So push down to the earth. Head rising, and notice all of the room that we are starting to generate inside. The opposite of full is empty. And we are in the process of emptying out. Good. Bring the hands back up in front. And we're going to let them pass by each other. Either palm to palm or back of the hand to the front of the hand, and without touching, as if we're kind of washing ourselves. And just notice, does it feel like something is transacting? Oh, I'll put it to you like that. Does it feel like there's some essence there? And the Chinese would call that a manifestation of qi. We would call it enhanced functionality, the electropiezo effect. And is it there, or did I make it up? Was it there all the time and I am enhancing it? Well, all of that is probably a little true, but if we believe or say to ourselves, well, this is all phantasmagorical, that's a pretty poor decision to make about the possibilities of what goes on in the universe. And who am I to make such decisions? There is such a cornucopia of work and evidence, and Oriental medicine is built on what we are sensing is the energies in the meridians. And let's take a palm, take our fingers and work our way up the wrist. And stop about 2 inches below the crease of the wrist. And pass the fingers by. And the center of the wrist here, and I'm going to come close and show. So here, in this area here, is what is called the pericardium meridian. And there's a seminal point called pericardium 6, which is used for reducing the anxiety in the heart. So just kind of notice and feel what that feels like, and go to the other hand. Right. Put the fingers to each other. So this sense of chi that we have, this sense of chi is a form of breathing. It is also called breath. I refer to it as breath. And imagine that we're going to do our little thing of coming up, and we're going to breathe in. And as we breathe out, imagine that you could course your breath right through your palms. And then breathing in, right into the belly. Breathe right into the belly. Coming up, and then breathing out the palms. Wonderful. Breathing in. So one of the things that I do besides teaching Qigong and my regular life is that I do Qigong healing. And I teach people how to move these energies, and also I will do it with clients on a table. So the breathing is so important in Qigong. Noticing the breath. And notice as the breath comes in, notice what it feels like as we fill with that energy. And then notice what it feels like as we push that energy out. So there's a place in the recovery paradigm where it says we have stopped fighting everyone and everything. And here, just for this moment, just for now, we are stopping fighting, and we are noticing the patterns in the universe occurring in us. So a lot of people say, I don't know how to quiet down anxiety, and I will tell you in recovery, for the 21 years and the 600 meetings I've done at hospitals and the thousands of meetings I've gone to, and it's probably not so different than people in regular walks of life, they say chronic anxiety is the worst issue that they have to deal with. They can deal with not using drugs. They can deal with not taking the alcohol. They can't deal with this chronic, unabating, unrelenting sense of anxiety. The body does not speak, but it has a language all its own. And what we are doing is we are using our everyday thinking mind to connect it to the somatic experience. So we're going to do this 3 more times and finish up, and I'm going to sit down and just open up a little diagram to show you. This is 2. And this will be the last one. And just before we sit down, right now, this is the gravy. This is the good stuff. No more work. No more qigong. No more anything. And just drift. Just take a few relaxed, natural breaths and thank yourself for doing this work. Fantastico. So, what we have here is a program of mixing a number of these different paradigms together. Qigong, Taoism, Oriental Medicine, recovery, and Western medicine. I'm going to bring up a little diagram here, and I'm going to talk about this for a moment. So what we have here is a diagram of the cranial nerves. Okay? Starting from 1 is up here. Olfactory is the sensory nerve of the nose. The second is the optic nerve. That is the nerve that sends the images to the brain. Now, none of these nerves go through the spinal column. They all go directly into the brain. The oculomotor nerve, you see these are all blue. Blue means motor. That controls the blinking, that controls the lens, that controls the involuntary movements of the eye. The trochlear nerve, that superior trochlear, that is the nerve that gives you the cross-eyed look. That is the nerve that will turn the eyes toward each other. Okay, that's 4. Then we have, where is 5? 5, I believe, is the intermediate nerve, so that is sensory. But the one I want to come to now is cranial nerve 6. Now, cranial nerve 6 controls the lateral outside movement of the eye. And if you put your hands above your ears, put your hands above the temples, and if you move your eyes side to side, you'll feel, right? You'll feel some movement here in those nerves, and those, they get so tense, and the gallbladder channel goes through there. And we have a little exercise that we're going to do today, okay? And what we're going to do is that, okay, I'm going to come back. We're going to come back to this in a minute. So these muscles here, you can palpate as you go side to side with your eyes. So we're going to do a little exercise called the salamander exercise. And it's a way to affect these cranial nerves, which actually then feed into the vagus nerve to help us quiet down. And what we're going to do, we can let our hands down now, is we're going to turn our head all the way to the right, all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way to the right, okay? All the way to the right, as far as you can without hurting yourself. And now you're going to look all the way to the left hard. And hold it there, hold, hold, hold. And relax. Whew. You feel that? And now, go to the other side. Head all the way to the left, all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way to the left, and the eyes to the right. Whew. Good. And we're going to repeat it one more time. And head to the right. This is like rubbing your head and patting your tummy at the same time. So these nerves feed directly into the brain. You may notice a deep breath coming. You may notice a swallow coming. This is an indication that the parasympathetic nervous system is being triggered. I'm going to go back to this again. So the parasympathetic nervous system is triggered by here what is called the vagus nerve. Now the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body. It has red and blue, meaning it is motor and it is sensory. And it speeds up or slows down. It slows down the rate of the heart. Actually, this has more effect of slowing down. There's the sympathetic nervous system which gives it the charge, and the vagus nerve, when it's triggered, can bring us into that dreamy sort of loose state. When we trigger some of these other cranial nerves, it has an effect upon the vagus nerve, and it onsets the parasympathetic nervous system. So here, if you notice at the very bottom, it says the external ear. How interesting. So I'm going to come back here. So there is something in acupuncture called the addictions protocol. And the addictions protocol, there are needles that are put in the ear to trigger the vagus nerve to quiet us down. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our ear, okay? And there's a ridge, right, that goes across, okay? Right, towards the top of the ear, okay? Now, you can pretend you're not listening to me and go, well, I can't hear you with my finger in my ear, okay? But we're going to press on that ridge. Press. Start in the front. Press. Release. Go back a little bit. Press hard against the scalp. Release. Press. Release. Press. Release. Press. Release. We're going to go under that ridge, under the ridge, and press up. And this may be tender. And if you find a tender spot, that's a trigger that you should really put some attention there. Press up. Ooh. And in the front, in the front part of the ear above that ridge, right toward the front, press into the hollow. Great. And now we're just going to pinch, ooh, pinch, pinch. We're helping that parasympathetic part of the autonomic nervous system to make an appearance by triggering the beneficial actions of the vagus nerve. And now we're going to let our hands down and just relax for a minute. Tons more to do, but we're not going to do it today. Today we're just going to sit here, and I'm going to read a little something from a book I wrote called The Joy of Not Cooking, like not frying ourselves. My Qigong. Looking up the word my in our family's 2,800 page 1943 Funk and Wagnall's dictionary, this tiny mysterious word has another arcane meaning beyond that of possession. Rather than ownership, it speaks of respect and subjugation, as in, my lord. The Upanishads have a custom of bowing to each other upon meeting, whether in a station below or above. Social status does not apply. There is a history of this cultural affectation hearkening back to their understanding of the cosmos, about God, about self, and about self-delusion. In the beginning of the world, before time, before space, they assert that God was alone and God was lonely. So in order to have companionship, God created the world. But all was still God. In order that God might have company, God played a game. God would hide from himself or herself so as to create a diversion. God purposely set up a system to hide him or herself. So when coming to meet each other, their custom was to bow to honor the hidden deity inside of all of us. So when we address ourselves as myself, with the same respect and honor as when we say, my Lord, we start to acknowledge the wondrous universe we are part of. While on the bus, or crossing the street, or working, we may not be mindful and aware of this other myself. After all, we do need to get things done. But if we are never aware of this higher self, we will never get things done, because there will always be something left for us to do, because we will always feel incomplete. Qigong is a wonderful way for us to realize that our higher self is always at hand, whether in the present breath or the next moment. The Sangha is waiting. So thank you for joining with us today. Thrilled that you could make it. And refer. We depend upon this to grow. It's a very powerful paradigm, and it's something that is needed. So thank you very much for joining.